You're listening to Men of Abundance, episode 205 with Wade Lighthearted. Today we're talking about health, wealth, and peace of mind.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What's up, Men of Abundance? I am Wally Carmichael, your founder and host of the Men of Abundance podcast, the Pay It Forward community. I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm still talking funny because I've still got this little flipper. They call it a flipper. It's basically a denture that's replacing my front tooth that I lost a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to have to wear this thing evidently for about 4 months at least before they can find out if they can go in there and put an implant in my skull and replace my tooth so that I can start talking normal again. It's a real pain in the butt. But you know what? All things considered, I'm still doing well. I'm still living an amazing life of abundance, and I have very little to complain about other than missing this front tooth. And by the way, I have to take the darn flipper out to eat, so of course I'm toothless when I'm eating, toothless. It's all funny. It is a pain in the butt. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to be honest about that. But again, there's so many things that I have to be grateful for in my life to let something like this be, kind of get me down and get me depressed and make me feel self-conscious and stop the show because I'm talking funny. It's just ridiculous for me to consider something like that. How do you feel about that? How would you feel if you was part of what you do? I don't do this for a living because I'm not making a living doing this podcast. It's all costing me money, actually. But I enjoy doing this. This is what I really enjoy doing. I love sharing these conversations with you. What would you do if you was suddenly missing a front tooth and you couldn't talk right? And, or consider something else. You lost your hearing, which I've also got hearing loss. So I don't know if you know this, but I wear hearing aids. As well, because there's certain tones that I can't hear because of the tinnitus that I suffer from and have had for many, many years. I've got many different issues going on that I don't share a whole lot with on this show or in general. I just don't share a lot of this information. But I have so much more to be grateful for than these little things that may seem big to others. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. You can do that, men. You can do that specifically at menofabundance.com/members. And you can gain access to our private or our closed Facebook group, the Men of Abundance community on Facebook. Go over there and get access to that. I'd love to have a conversation with you about this and any other things that you have going on in your life, whether they're greatly abundant or something you're struggling with. Let's go over there and have that conversation, see how we can lift you back up, and maybe you can come in there and lift other people up as well. So I want to get right into it today. I want to introduce you to our featured guest. Our featured guest today is Wade Lighthearted. He is a former 3-time national natural bodybuilding champion who is the only person to have competed at the Mr. Universe and the World Championships as a vegetarian. That's impressive. He serves as an advisor to the American Anti-Cancer Institute, has written 6 books on health and performance, is the co-founder of BioOptimizers, a company that fixes digestion. His awesome health course has helped thousands of people around the world fix their digestion, improve their health, and optimize their performance. He currently serves the world by writing, speaking, and spreading the message of awesome health to the world. Men of Abundance, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Wade Lighthearted. Wade, welcome to Men of Abundance, brother. How you doing?
Doing great. Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Where are you at in the world?
Right now, I'm in Panama City, Panama, and I'm just be heading up to Vancouver in a couple of days.
Very, very interesting. That's awesome. So before we get too much into our conversation, I like to start out with an attitude of gratitude, man. What do you have to be grateful for today?
First, that I'm upright and alive, and I have an opportunity to exist. And I think it was the Buddha said a long time ago, to be born a human is an incredible gift. And I think just to be in the world today with everything that's available, and to connect with people, and to have an opportunity to share and contribute to mankind is just an incredible opportunity that I'm just blown away with it every day, and I feel super grateful for that.
We are living in a world today with so much abundance, contrary to what so many different other groups and mediums and whatever the case may be want to lead us to believe. There's so much in the world. There's so much more good in the world. There's so much more amazing in the world. There's so many more resources in the world than we can even imagine. It's just all about really collaborating and getting all of that out to the right people, right?
Absolutely. It's actually never been better for humans on the planet as it is right now. And it's really important to remember that the average person, certainly in westernized countries, we live better than kings and queens did just even 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the same thing about presidents. Presidents didn't have the type of information. U.S. presidents didn't have the type of information at their beck and call in their pocket like we do today.
Yeah, it's truly phenomenal, and it's easy to forget, and something that you do a little gratitude every day, you start to realize, man, we got it really good.
We really do. And I was just kind of chuckling to myself, because you do have to kind of pay attention to what information that it is that you are paying attention to, but that's a whole other subject.
No doubt.
So, Wade, how would you describe yourself?
Wow, it's always a difficult thing, but I would say I'm a, how would I best describe it? Well, I'm a little bit of a contrarian thinker. I kind of look at what the world's doing, and I would go the opposite way, just as a natural nature. And that's not always a good thing, but that was probably my tendency. I would say that I have a spiritual intention and practice in the world, and that would say I call myself sometimes a Christian Zendu. I grew up as a Christian, and found the philosophy of Hindu philosophy. So it's like I have a soul of the Hindu, and I practice Zen, which is kind of like a non-duality in the world, and trying to see the essence of things as opposed to the the left and the right, or the good and the bad, or the dark and the light, or however you want to put it, and trying to reduce that polarity. So those are the things. And I would say I'm also a serial entrepreneur, and someone who is a seeker of self-evolution, and ultimately to self-actualization. If you're more on the psychological side of things, like Maslow's hierarchy of how can I be the best person I can, contribute the most to my family, to my society, and to a greater humanity. That's who I am.
Man, I dig it. I really like that. Now let's explore this a little bit, because I like how you said you don't really look at the left or the right, or the right or the wrong, just kind of the Zen. And what I'm kind of getting out of that, and I'd like for you to elaborate on this a little bit, is that what I'm getting out of it is just basically that anything that we do, because the way I look at my life is everything happens for me, not to me. So if it's something good or bad, it's a learning experience, but I seem to learn more from those experiences that aren't as comfortable. Rather it's painful or just uncomfortable, kind of embarrassing, or any of that situation. So that's where I'm kind of getting the left and the right and the right and the wrong idea from. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if you really, study oneself, and I think that the goal to happiness and awareness and truly self-knowledge really comes from reflecting on contemplation, of actually looking at oneself objectively. And if you look at most things, the concept of up, down, left, right, dark, and light are actually just degrees of the same thing. Like, at what point is light and what point is dark? What point is hot and what point is cold? Those are relative based on our observation skills, which are limited. And that's how our brains work. That's how our nervous system works. So the reality is, if you look at the universe, the known universe, which according to the scientists, most of it's unknown. Most of the matter we can't even see, or is not in a frequency realm that we can be aware of. They're looking for it, the so-called dark matter. We are just these little teeny weeny tiny specks of, consciousness floating on a piece of dirt at some far end of some little, moderate galaxy in a ginormous universe. And so the reality is our awareness and our comprehension and understanding, even our capabilities, are relatively limited. And so with a little bit of humility, you can realize, well, I really don't know that much. In fact, I don't know anything, and much that I do know is probably incorrect or false. So I just have to go with the best that I can do, set the best intentions, and mistakes, as you think, or challenges are inevitable. It's part of being a human. It's not it's not something to shy away from. It's just to say, hey, you know what? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And what is the kernel of truth from this uncomfortable experience? And how do I maybe avoid that or do better the next time?
Wow, excellent. Explained much better than I was trying to. I take it. That's awesome, man. That's why I love having these conversations, man. Opens my mind up so much here first thing in the morning. Well, it's morning here for me. What time is it there for you?
It's about 1 o'clock here in Panama.
6-hour difference.
Yeah.
8 o'clock. So awesome. Very awesome. Man, that is really good stuff. So how did you kind of get into that? Where did all that come from? And we're going to get more into your story here in just a minute, but I just want to explore that a little bit more because, we talk to so many guys, so many men and women here on Men of Abundance, and a lot of them are Christian and a lot of them are other faiths. And, it's my belief, I'm a spiritual man. I wouldn't consider myself really a religious man. And I say that because I believe in higher being, of course, and I don't want to get into the whole religious realm, but it's just this whole spirit. And I mean, goodness, your last name is Lighthearted, so that's like really cool. Very spiritual as far as I'm concerned. But I just like this whole idea of having the spiritual sense, but so many people are afraid to explore that for themselves because of the way their family brought them up and their religious background and stuff like that. Did you struggle with that at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody struggles with it in their own way. And it's just, it comes down to some people are more willing to just kind of let those struggles go by. And other people are just, it gets the bug in them and they're like, I got to find out this. And that was the way it was for me. And I had a series of, I would say it's been a progressive evolution, and I hope it continues on. But if I can summarize how I got to those conclusions at this stage, and I don't think these are absolute or anything, I try to remain as flexible and open as I can. I grew up in a traditional Canadian family. My mom took me to church, and I had that experience of regular Christianity, and the message was pretty good as a child, right? It was like there's God and there's loving and all that, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then I got to like the big people church, and then I heard that if I was bad or didn't worship this omniscient being, I was going to get burnt up in fire. And I thought, if I'm a dad and I don't think I could just burn up my son or my child if they did wrong. Like something didn't make sense there. So I stepped away from organized religion at that point. And later on, I read a book called Autobiography of a Yogi, which was written by Paramahansa Yogananda. This was many years later. And basically, he was a Hindu who had a really great commentary between the philosophy of Hinduism as taught by Krishna and Christianity as taught by Jesus. And I was like, this guy kind of resolved my issues with organized religion. I was like, pretty cool. All right. Here's a guy from another religion, another thing. I was like, okay, I got it. I went at that. But then a few years later, after having a personal crisis, we can talk about that a little later. That kind of really brought me downwards. I got into meditation, and through meditation and then the study of various philosophies, the various religious doctrines around the world, and spiritual philosophies and psychological philosophies. Always was a reader and always was fascinated with these things. I was just interested in it. And through my own reflection and contemplation and meditation, I was able to kind of come to terms with who I am, or what is the purpose of life, and and how I would choose to live that. And I would say the best summation of all of that was when I got into the literature put out by Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force, and he has a whole series of books on consciousness and being in the world but not of it, and that sort of thing. And it really assisted me and not seeing the world as black and white, but seeing it more like colors on a rainbow that were relative to frequencies. And each one of those has a belief, it has a process, it has a worldview, it has a universal view, it has an emotionality. And by seeing that, there now became a commonality between all of mankind. And there was a way of relating to just about anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere, because you understood the values of that person and you didn't have to mix it. So to make it simple, is red, which is a frequency on the color spectrum, any better or worse than violet, which is on the other end of it? No, it's just a different degree of vibrational frequency. And so it is with humans, and so it is with everything else that we see or experience here in the observable universe relating to our sensory perception. So that's my philosophy, and it's an ongoing unfoldment that continues each and every day. So it's not like I got it all figured out or anything like that. That's just the process and how I choose to look at the map, if you will, but navigating it's a whole other that's a whole other challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely, we're all on our own journey, and anybody who thinks their journey's at the end is so wrong. So incorrect. But absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. And you kind of alluded a little bit to your personal crisis, what I refer to as the kick in the gut moment. So if you would, I'd like for you to go ahead and elaborate on that a little bit. What was that personal crisis that kind of took you to your knees? Really make us feel that.
Well, I've had several.
I'm sure. Yeah, many of us have.
I think the one I was referring to was in the year of 2000. I had kind of got mixed up into the wrong world. I would say sex, drugs, rock and roll, and had an experience with that brought me down, with involvement of drugs and the wrong people and things like that. And that was as they say, that was the come to Jesus moment. Is like, I realized that what I was doing and how I was living my life and kind of what I thought the world was about and how I thought things should be, and my relation to it came to a crashing halt, and realized, you know what, I've jeopardized my life. I've damaged my health. I've, affected my relationships, and, I've disappointed my family. And at that moment, that was a really big turning point for me, where I was able to put into practice on a daily basis practices that would help me bring more awareness to my life, and, to live my life, in a way that uplifted myself and those around me, as opposed to just was some kind of sensory gratification ego trip. Yeah, I can relate. And it's funny when you said that. One of the things that just dawned on me when you said that you were getting around the wrong people, and you just basically described my teenage life, my young adult life up until my, right when I turned about 20. With the drug, sex, and rock and roll and the whole bit, and with a lot of those guys. And I got out of that environment. And I've recently reconnected I've been, connected with many of my friends from that era and from that time of my life. And while I wanted to get away from that, many of those men and women are amazing people today. We were all just going through what we had to go through at that point in time based on our environment. And I just think it's interesting that, one of the things that when you said that these bad people or people that weren't, good for your life, these people weren't good for my life at that point in time. Nor were they good for their own life. And many of them spent time in jail. Some of them aren't with us anymore. But most of us are doing pretty darn good today. And we got out of it got out of that situation in our own way. So I just think that's important to point out. What are your thoughts on that? Well, I always say to a lot of my friends, I said, hey, look, if you're a man, and of course I relate to the world as a man, because that's how I'm incarnated, as they say. Yeah. And I'm not to be derogatory towards women, but I said, if you're a man and you get past 30 years old, you've just achieved something that 99% of the men who've ever lived on the planet haven't been able to do.
That's a very good point.
So if you look historically, that's an incredible achievement, just because, men, we have this amazing chemical called testosterone, and that chemical has a wonderful ability to suspend all rational thought. We've been running at each other with axes, knives, guns, bullets, drinking concoctions that paralyze our cognitive and, nervous system, perceptual abilities, and doing all sorts of things which are dangerous. And that's a great chemical maybe to defend oneself from adversaries or to go through things, but it's also one that every man has to learn to manage. And, some of us got lucky enough that we survived our early years, and I feel grateful. And I do believe that it's some form of grace, because like yourself, I had a lot of friends that didn't have that good fortune. And I give thanks to that every day. And I also respect, the process, and know, there's no safety except within my daily practice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's transition into what it is that you've been working on here more recently, because I've watched I've watched your video, read your bio, looked at some other stuff that I've been checking you out and seeing what you got going on, and I dig it, man. I love your message, and you have this huge message of health, health, wealth. How do you say it?
Health, wealth, and peace of mind.
There you go. I know I'd get it. And it's so true. The health is first. You got to take care of yourself. When you have, wealth, and wealth is more than just a financial wealth as far as I'm concerned. And with that comes the peace of mind. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and tell us kind of where that came from?
Sure. Well, again, through the experiment of life itself. When I was 15 years old, my sister was diagnosed with cancer, and I watched her go through 4 years of the medical model before she died. And it was a very painful and tragic experience. And so the gift of that, pain was that I realized that, number one, your health and well-being is not a guarantee. So that set me on a course of studying exercise physiology and nutrition, and I got into bodybuilding, and leveraged that and ended up with a career in that industry as a personal trainer, and then eventually as an author and an advocate, and got to do some competitions around the Mr. Universe and things like that, represent my country, and that was a phenomenal experience and a big learning lesson. And then as I transited into assisting others and helping other people achieve physical well-being, I learned about the difference between fitness and health. And health, it comprises a lot more things than just fitness. There's psychological, emotional, spiritual health. And through that, I got to interact with a lot of people from around the world. And thanks to the internet, we were able to market stuff online. And so I learned a lot about people in that process. And I realized that, the foundation of a great life is, for most people, and it's certainly, you can have a great life without it, but it makes it a lot easier. And that is if you have great health. And so I found, I just studied mentor after mentor after mentor and put them all together into a philosophy that I called the Awesome Health Philosophy. And the Awesome Health, there's 7 basic pillars to the Awesome Health Philosophy that indicate a level of practices that anybody in any place, anytime, anywhere, and universal principles that are proven on biological science that you can apply. You can turn it into literally a 15-minute day routine and really experience awesome health. So I summarized that. However, having health isn't enough in today's world, because one cannot really reach their full potential without having resources. And what I mean by that is we have an incredible array of technological resources today and information resources today, thanks largely in part to technological growth. In other words, the internet has brought the greatest minds to your laptop. You can connect with anybody. You can build a business online. You can acquire resources, energetic resources, and some people will call that money. But it's also information. It's also tech. It's people. It's all those sort of things that are resources, and you can harness those resources in ways that will allow you to, what would I say, express yourself. So for simple terms, it's if you have money, if you have a way of making money that doesn't take up all of your time, because that's our most precious commodity. Well, now you're able to take the time to contemplate, deeper thoughts. You're able to take the time to put some of your resources towards helping others or uplifting mankind, or you're able to put the time and energy into expressing yourself, whether that's an artist or whether that is a musician or whether that is a scientist, or maybe you're a handy worker, or maybe you like to take care of other people, or whatever it happens to be that, turns your crank as your life's purpose. You can do that. And that takes resources. And the more resources that you have, or at least if you have significant resources, then you can, leverage all the advantage we have today to kind of, again, move towards self-actualization. And then finally, having your health and having money certainly isn't enough in life, because I've known people, particularly who, as a coach and a trainer back in the day, some of the most affluent people in Canada and around the world would contract me, and they had great wealth and they had good health, but they didn't have peace of mind. And I realized that peace of mind comes from cultivating a philosophy for your life that doesn't interfere negatively with your environment. And that means the people you hang around, your society, your village, your nation, your family, and the world at large. And the cultivation of those three things, I think, really is an ongoing process for all of us. And I'm just grateful to go in that and share what I've learned, and also to learn from people that have taken that to the next level, and just share that to the best of my ability.
Health and wealth, that seems pretty cut and dry as far as, how to be healthy. Drink water, breathe in the morning, like you say. First thing you do every morning, breathe on purpose, because of course you're breathing, but most people breathe unconsciously, like you say, and drink water and eat healthy, right? Got that. Wealth, there's so many different ways. I mean, I just share all the time so many different ways to start making a few extra bucks on top of what you're already doing. You can figure out a way to make money. You can gain the wealth. Peace of mind, not so easy. How do you do that? What's the conversation you're having with some of these guys to help them really get that peace of mind that they're seeking, and that they really need to bring everything else together?
Well, three basic things. Number one, the process of meditation. So meditation is a process of usually starts with breath work, breathing in a conscious pattern that slows down the electrical activity of the body, which physiologically speaking, for the scientists who are listening or the more science-oriented, changes how the frequency that your brain is. So we have a number of different frequencies: alpha, beta, delta, theta, and gamma, which relate to kind of states of mind. And some of the most, well-connected, functioning brains and people are those of monks and saints who have actually endeavored in the process of meditation, the formal practice of meditation, oftentimes for many, many, many decades. And science has revealed that, yes, they do have a different brain, and they do perceive the world in a different space, and they are able to achieve a meditative state. On top of that, I would say, because most of us live in the busy world, you can also supersede that, because if you don't have a lot of time for meditation, with contemplation. And that is to take a philosophical or spiritual thought, maybe read it in the morning, takes you 30 seconds or a minute, and then practice that thought. So an example of that would be kind and loving to all those in your field of experience, no matter what. So if you practice that over the course of the day in the world, that will bring realization and understanding to you about humanity and about yourself, as much as just about anything, any philosophy, religion, book, doctrine, whatever. So I think that's a process. And then, of course, the study of those individuals throughout history who were able to achieve that state of peace or that state of benevolence, and that have influenced mankind for centuries. So if you look at the great religious formats, first and foremost, none of the great masters of the world, as they like to call, like, Buddha or Krishna or Jesus, they didn't create religions. They were just them, and religions spawned off them. They just achieved. And if you look at the basic tenets of what they teach, they're all the same. be kind and loving, take care of your health, right? Let go of attachment to things, the principles are there. They're universal and applicable regardless of the time or generation. And that's why they've influenced humanity for literally thousands of years. Now, the misidentification with those have created a lot of challenges with, nation states wars, religious wars, and also internal conflict for people and judgment and condemnation of others in order to, project onto others. And so, but the core truths between all of those philosophies are essentially the same.
Yeah. No, very good point. Spot on. Absolutely. I agree 100% with everything you just said, especially when people start, when people get involved in the whole idea of creating this religion. Because one of the things I say, and it confuses some people and they push back initially, is that man created religion. I'm not saying man created God, or God or, the universe, all this kind of stuff, but just the religion portion of it. And I never heard that, never even considered that Buddha, Jesus, and everybody else, all these amazing leaders that we follow, did not create religion. They were just themselves.
No.
I love that. That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful message for people to just really consider. So what are some good news stories? I'm a sucker for good news stories, and I know you've got many. What are a couple good news stories that have come out of the work that you've been doing?
Well, probably one of the biggest, I'll talk on two in particular because they related to the first two items we tested. Number one, my work, I have a nutrition company called Bioptimizer that I founded with one of my business partners. We've been doing that for 14 years. It's an online business. We started way back in 2004, hard to believe. But what's been beautiful about that is, we've built a team. We've helped people in over 100 countries, and basically we solve digestive issues. So our mission is to end physical suffering and to activate awesome health. And we do it through fixing people's digestion, because that is the gateway, if you will, to pretty much all the disease and all the dysfunction is actually through your digestive process. And we cultivated and developed a line of products that really solve those issues for people, and which are quite common. I think 85% of the population is suffering from some form of digestive issue at some point in their time, and 25% are on prescription medications. And we have an alternative to that. And inside of that, it's also a platform, because I don't just sell products. I teach a health philosophy, which is called the Awesome Health System, as I illustrate it. And it's basically a 12-week course that I'll give this to your listeners today. We'll give you we'll put a link in here, and they can actually access the course. I give it away for free so that people can truly experience the practices and principles in a very simple and easy to understand format. Basically, it's 12 weeks of 5 to 15-minute videos where I teach a principle every day that I've learned, or one of my mentors in a synthesized philosophy to health. And literally every day I get testimonials from our customer service about how that's impacted people in a positive way. And that feels really great. People suffering sometimes for 30, 40 years, and all of a sudden we were able to solve a problem for them. And there's a juice that you get when you help other humans that no amount of money can replace. So that's really nice. Yeah, and then the second thing is I teach online entrepreneurship through another one of my companies called the Wealthy Backpacker. And it's basically a way to teach people how to build a business in today's world that doesn't take too much time, or you can put a lot of time into it, but it's a way for you to generate revenue by leveraging systems and technology and, marketing products to people that people need, that make a transformation in their lives, and that also will put, resources in your pocket. So I do believe that we are living in the time of the rise of the entrepreneur. I think the end of the corporation is imminent. As we know it, if you look at how people have become mobile, how the digital world has changed everything. And, literally I've been working online for 14 years. I don't have to go to a job. All my contractors and people who work for me, they all work independently at home. We have all this technology that works for us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it can give me and free up some time. And so I teach that to people through that. and offer a variety of different ways to do it, because you can do it through online business, you can do it through direct marketing, you can do it through consultations. And I've leveraged all of those mediums in my own life, and I teach the principles behind that. So I help cover the health side and the wealth side, and I leave the peace of mind up for that person to discover on their own, because I'm not a spiritual teacher or anything like that. Although I certainly believe in finding what makes your philosophy work.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to dig in just a little bit to each of those that you just talked about. So the digestive products that you have, and the techniques and the videos that you're going to share with us. Really looking forward to digging into that, because I've read multiple times, being in the health and fitness industry that I have been for many years, at various levels. One of the things that I've known for sure is your digestive system. It really, like you said, it really just drives your health. And one of the things that I've learned that I've been doing for many years is first thing in the morning, drink a tall glass. I like only time I like drinking cold water is first thing in the morning. With a little bit of lemon juice, and I put just a little bit of Himalayan pink salt in there. I was told in my readings and what I've been doing, and who knows, maybe I'm wrong, you're the expert on this, certainly more than I am, is that that's a good thing for gut health. But what are some other, first off, verify that or not, and what are some other things that people could do, that you could give them? We're going to do the pay it forward round here in just a minute, but what are some things in relation to that they might get out of those videos that they'd be able to help them out?
Yeah, there's three essential things that people need in order to digest and eliminate their food or the waste properly, and that is enzymes, probiotics, and hydrochloric acid. So enzymes are virtually in every living thing, and they convert. They're really result in 25,000 functions in the body, and they're the difference between the living and dead, and they're the workers of the body, if you will. Every single chemical reaction inside the body requires an enzyme, and normally all species on the planet eat food in its raw, uncooked state, except humans. Now, when you cook food, you do not get the enzymes that are present in that living organism. So when a tiger eats a zebra, it gets the enzymes in the zebra. When a snake eats a mouse, it gets the enzymes in the mouse. When a cow eats grass, it gets the enzymes in the grass. When a human cooks something, you get the building blocks, but you don't get the workers. You don't get the enzymes. And I believe that is one of the leading causes of digestive dysfunction over time. And there's a lot of evidence to support that. And I would recommend people check out Enzyme Nutrition by Dr. Edward Howe, I think, which was a groundbreaking book back in the 40s, which he predicted a lot of the health challenges we are experiencing today as humans back then by his experiment on animals eating an enzyme deficient diet. Second part is your stomach produces hydrochloric acid, and the key, one of the reasons why the water thing that you mentioned is important, because hydration is the most important part of actually creating acid. And it seems counterproductive, but by drinking a liter of water, that helps hydrate your body, and that allows you to produce more stomach acid. That being said, stomach acid has a couple of functions. Number one, it breaks down your food to smaller pieces as it prepares before it goes into the intestinal tract in order for your body to finish the transition into nutrients that your body needs. But it also serves as a disinfectant, and that means it kills bacteria, viruses, parasites, and stuff that may be present in your food. And as we get older, we just produce less hydrochloric acid. And that opens the gateway for a lot of these things to kind of get in. So most people said, yeah, when I was 20, I could eat anything, but now I'm not. I find that I have a harder time. Well, that's directly related to less enzymes in your body and less hydrochloric acid. And then the final piece of that is probiotics. And probiotics mean pro-life. And most people are familiar with antibiotics because we've, in the last 100 years, we developed antibiotics, which have saved millions and millions of people. However, inside your body, you have 10% good bacteria, 10% bad, and 80% opportunist. And there's about 500, anywhere from 250 to 500 different strains of bacteria. And many of these you need. In fact, if you didn't have them, you would die. Bacteria, by the way, for most people, we have more bacteria in our body by anywhere between 5 and 10 times the amount of bacteria in our body than we do cells in our body. So that's a pretty phenomenal. Like the average person is somewhere between 4 and 10 pounds of bacteria in their intestinal tract. Pretty crazy. And these they perform essential functions. Now, the good guys, they help us digest our food. They help us make hormones. They help us feel great. And they fight off any invaders. The bad guys make us bloated, get gassy, have skin conditions, depression, and food cravings, all the nasty things, and ultimately can contribute to disease and dysfunction over time if left unchecked. And then the guys in the middle, the 80% in between, those are kind of opportunities based on environment, stress levels, dietary levels and stuff. And sometimes they can create problems in the body depending on the environment. So those three things are the foundational components of optimizing your digestion, whatever age that you're at. And I discovered that through mentorship with one of my mentors, and I applied it in my life. And, now today I'm in my mid 40s. I'm, just a few pounds over what I used to compete at when I was in my 20s. I feel great. I'm not on any chemicals, not on any drugs. I have a great life, and I feel it's directly related to my ability to optimize my digestive process. So I'm getting the most out of what I'm eating, and I'm eliminating all the things that I don't want, and I'm wiping out those invaders. So that may, cause problems for me as far as my health goes.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really big on the why. And when people, I believe when people understand the why of doing things, like you just explained, it's so much easier to follow through with the things that we need to do to really take care of ourselves. And you just really summed it up. Excellent. So now I want to transition into my other passion, health being one of them, and just entrepreneurship and something about making a few extra bucks by creating something of your own. It's amazing. I love that feeling. So what are some of the things that you would, help people out with, and what are some of the things that you work on as far as online, getting guys to make money online, and maybe even just a side hustle or a full-time career out of it?
Well, I recommend that people start part-time in the online world. And I think that's the beauty of the online world, is that you can be working a regular job. You don't have any background, any skills, any experience maybe in the online world, but there's people out there that are willing to teach you these principles. And you can start doing it on a part-time basis, and then eventually you can move it to a full-time basis. And I think that's the beautiful transition. To give you my own journey, in 1998, I went into business for myself as a personal trainer and fitness consultant after my first 98 national competition. And I also opened up a brick and mortar juice bar. And I learned a lot about myself and for people in business at those times. But in 2004, after I competed at the Mr. Universe contest, and I did it as an unusual thing, and I'm not trying to advocate any dietary philosophy, but I was a vegetarian bodybuilder who didn't do any drugs that ended up competing at the Mr. Universe. And that was unheard of. Nobody had done that. Mm-hmm. And so one of my friends, who was also a personal trainer and coach, told me that he was making money online, and I thought he was crazy. We were going back to 2004. It's like, nobody's making money online. What are you talking about? He goes, no, I am. He goes, and I think we could do a product. I think we could teach people what you're doing because it's relatively unusual. I think we could make money at it. And I'm like, all right, well, I can write the books and the philosophy and that stuff. And if you can help me market online, we'll go for it. Well, we started that. And in 18 months, we had a 6-figure a month business, and we moved to Panama, and went through a lot of adventures and started scaling that up, and that led me on a journey ever since that I was able to develop businesses online using affiliate marketing or direct marketing, and now it's moved into social media marketing in order to find people who needed my products, provide them the information that they could make a decision, and then creating a process, a systemized process that I was able to get a fair exchange of dollars for the value that I was offering. And so I mentor people in that process, and I help people get started just like I did, because I believe that, that never would have happened for me if my friend didn't teach me all of those principles. And I continue to this day. I continue to learn from people who are doing a better job than me, or are more successful, or have contributed to mankind more often. I'm always learning. And it's always changing. And so I feel it's important for me to pay it forward and, teach the next generation of how they can get started and take advantage of it. And when I started, I was working my personal training job all day long, and then I would go and work part-time in the evenings and in the weekends with my friend until, we had enough success that I could leave my day job, so to speak. And I encourage that process for other people as well, because it reduces the risk. It costs a lot less money, and you can get the mentorship and guidance that you need so you can avoid a lot of the mistakes that people who start their own business make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, if you're listening into this, two of the things that I get out of that, and I 100% agree, is one, do it part-time. Don't give up the income that you have right now, because you're going to need that income. And if anything, to build a business, but certainly to survive, and take care of your immediate needs. And two, biggest, regardless of how you do it, if you jump all in or you do it part-time, get a mentor, get a coach, get somebody who is reputable, knows what they're talking about, and not only is doing what you want to do, but actually knows how to share that, actually knows how to coach that, teach it, and be a mentor to you. Because just because somebody's where you want to be does not mean that they know how to get you there. So ultimately, It's your journey and it's your responsibility. But find somebody who knows what they're doing to help get you there. I see a lot of guys get themselves in trouble by just following after somebody else that doesn't really know what they're talking about. And how long you say you've been in business?
Well, I started my first business in 1998.
Yeah, I think that
20 years.
That kind of that sometimes I don't say. I see people in businesses all the time say we've been in business since 1806 BC. That doesn't make a darn bit of difference if you're still doing the same thing you were doing back then, and not really progressing. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't impress me a whole lot. But when you've been in business and you're growing and you're helping other people, that's a track record that you want to look for, guys. Awesome. So Wade, we're at the point where we're going to pay it forward. You ready to do that, brother?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I need a huge favor from you, and this has very high potential of being very beneficial to you as well. You may or may not know, but I recently launched a new e-learning platform called Abundance and Prosperity Mastery, and this is where I combine the abundance mindset with marketing and business strategies. And I'm in the process of writing a book that specifically details my ability to find a minimum of $10,000 in additional revenue for any industry out there. And I'm convinced I can do this for any industry out there, and I do this in just 45 minutes. And this is a service that I'm currently offering to select clients. So what I'm asking of you as a Men of Abundance listener is if you would consider letting me perform this service for you in your industry, especially if it's an industry I have not worked in yet, and then just use your results as a future case study in my book, either under your business name or anonymously. And again, as a Men of Abundance listener, I won't charge you anything for this service, and all I ask in return is your written permission to use your results for my book. And if I impress you, maybe just a brief testimonial I can use as well. If you're willing and ready to do that favor for me, then send me an email to info@apmasterycoach.com. That's Alpha Papa masterycoach.com, and in the subject line put 10K book, and then in the body of the email just put a brief description of what your industry is and maybe a few of your biggest challenges. I will then get back with you with a calendar link so that you and I can get on the line and I can show you how I can find $10,000 of revenue in your business in 45 minutes. And as an added bonus, just for helping me out, I will share with you the 3 biggest lead generation mistakes small businesses make and how to overcome every one of them. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Awesome. So share with Men of Abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today.
You bet. I think the first thing is to cultivate a meditative or contemplative practice that resonates with you. In other words, to reflect on oneself and one's life. And for me, that's meditation and contemplation and spiritual study. And I set aside the first thing I do in the morning. That's what I do. And that kind of sets me up to kind of be in the world, but not of it. And I think that's where self-growth, self-determination, and learning what it is to be a human is all about. Second thing I would suggest is to cultivate a physical practice. whether that's yoga, whether that's, aerobic conditioning, whether it's anaerobic conditioning, whatever it is that kind of people say, what's the best exercise? I'm like, the one that you do regularly, that you enjoy. Do something physical every single day, because we are, I like to think we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, but that physical experience today, modern technology has made everything so easy and convenient that without movement, without exercise, without going towards your fitness, it becomes really difficult. It's easy to just get the diseases of civilization. Essentially, we've got a new set of diseases, and that is from sitting in our computers and eating, foods that we shouldn't and all that sort of stuff, because they taste great and they're designed to addict us. So I think those two things are the first and foremost. And then the final thing that I would say is cultivate a source of revenue in your life that, that business that contributes to the well-being of yourself and other people around you. So I would say, avoid something like being in the casino business or something like that. Like, do something that uplifts others and that you're passionate about and that makes you money, and that so that you can leverage those resources to help you and your family self-actualize and, of course, pay it back to your own community. Those three things are things that I think are essential to living in today's world.
Excellent. I absolutely love that. Like you said, the cultivate resources, I wrote that down. That is really cool, because you're not just talking about the financial well-being, but also, like you said, the casino industry, there's a lot of people that are really addicted to gambling, but also being in those casinos is not healthy, man. I like going to Vegas, but that fake air that they pump into those casinos to try to hide the smoke, and it's just not a healthy environment. One thing I want to ask you before we move on, because you talk about health and you talked about this in your video, and guys, I keep referring to this video. I'm going to have the link to Wade's website in the show notes, of course, and it's byoptimizers.com. I want you to check out that video that's on his About page. But also, you brought out a trampoline that you said you travel with. I was hoping you was going to open that up and show me how you use that. What is that? I want to learn more about that.
Yeah, great. Well, years ago, I met a wonderful man. His name is David Hall, and he developed what I think is one of the world's finest mini trampolines. He calls it a cellar sizer, and it's portable. And you can literally take it anywhere you want, and it provides you in like literally 10 minutes. He has a routine, and in 10 minutes you can have a complete, thorough anaerobic, aerobic, stretching exercise. It's really great. It's really thorough. It's no impact. And it literally works every single cell in the body, increases mitochondrial density, which gives you more energy. And it's just a simple and easy way that virtually anybody can exercise with. And I do it every day. And I have been for years since I met David. He makes a great device and a great machine, and he teaches really well about it. And the guy's achieved a level of physical vitality that is truly impressive, and speaks to the volumes of the efficacy of it. And he's literally helped, thousands and thousands and thousands of people all around the world. And I love that mini trampoline. I think it's the most efficient, effective form of exercise that anybody can do. It's portable. You can do it in your living room in literally 10 minutes, and you're done. And I don't know of a better way to get fit, and it really reduces all the excuses that anybody might have because of time constraints or location or whatever it happens to be.
Man, guys, that's powerful to me that he says that, because that's coming from a world-recognized bodybuilder. So I think that's pretty cool. And I'm gonna look that up. And if you have any links for that, Wade, let me know, because I'm gonna have that linked up in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
Cool. So I can imagine a few daily habits that you have. You've already mentioned a few, but what are a few daily habits that make the biggest impact in your life?
Great. Yeah. Well, I have a little process, my morning ritual that I go through every single day. So if it's okay, I'll share it with you, because it's just what I've cultivated as a practice that's really been helpful for me, and doesn't take that much time.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the first thing I do, as I mentioned it before, I do a deep breathing component. So I have the AWESOME philosophy, which stands for air, water, exercise, sunlight, optimizers, mental beliefs and attitudes, education, testing, and coaching. Each one of these are the pillars to my philosophy. So the first thing I do is I do a deep breathing practice in meditation. And deep breathing is a way that you can invigorate all the energy into your body. So you can get energy without food. You can change your brain state, your perspective on things. And so I start with that. As soon as I'm done that, I go over to I have a Kangen water ionizer, which provides a lot of antioxidants. I travel with that as well. I'm a bit of a freak on some of this stuff. And I have a big liter of that water and drink that down. Provides my body lots of antioxidants, hydrates me in a great way, beneficial to my pH levels and gets that going. I then jump on my rebounder. Well, so I do my rebounding exercises, and that works all the cells of my body and also works all the organ cells and moves your lymphatic system, which is kind of like it's 3.5 times your venous system. And that allows you to kind of remove the toxins and impurities out of the body, get that water pumping through you, clean the whole system out, and get really in a great state. As soon as I finish that, I make a healthy protein shake. I use plant-based proteins. I throw in some enzymes. I throw some probiotics. I put some vitamins and minerals, some essential fatty acids in it. So I got everything that my body needs to be healthy, all the building blocks, all the workers, all the nutrients. I'll throw in some specialized herbs or whatever inside of that, mix it all up and drink that down. And then literally I'll take a few minutes while I'm drinking that to review my goals. What are my goals? And I do goals in an interesting way. I do goals. I have a 10-year goal. Then I break that down to a 3-year. Then I break that down to a 1-year. Then I bring it down to a 90-day sprint, if you will. So I reread my 1-year goals and my 90-day goals right there during that time while I'm sipping my shake. And that way I stay focused on what it is that I'm doing in the world. Where am I going? And then immediately, I also do a little bit of a philosophical or spiritual study as well at that time. So, and rather than clicking on, social media or, turning on my internet and checking my emails or whatever, or watching TV, I spend time with some of the greatest thinkers on the planet, or whether that's from a spiritual side or a psychological side or whatever. And I impart that into me as well with my goals. I do a few affirmations about what I'm trying to do, and then I start my day, usually working on my most important tasks early in the day, and then I'll crack open my emails in the afternoon. That way I'm putting out first. First, I take care of my inner game. Then I put my most important action steps out into the world. And then after that, I start responding to the requests of the world as they come in, through my email or my text messaging or whatever it happens to be. So that's kind of my daily routine, and it's worked well for me, and I'm always looking to optimize it.
I really like that you get into the emails later. I do my best to do that as well. Now, this morning, I got to admit, I was waiting on a particular email, and I know I should have waited until after our conversation so I'd be in a better state of mind for whatever the answer was, but I didn't get the answer that I wanted, so it started off my day in not a great place, but I'm getting there after having these conversations. That's part of the reason why I love having these conversations as well. Now, you've already mentioned a couple books, and you mentioned that you read a little bit philosophy and spiritual and stuff like that, but what would you recommend that our abundant leaders read or listen to, and why?
Well, there's a couple things. I think first and foremost, there is just-in-case learning or just-in-time learning. And I think in today's world, because it's evolving so quickly, I think the next book or the next thing you're reading should be something relative to solve a challenge that you might be experiencing right now. So if you're having a spiritual crisis or some kind of thing, you might want to read a spiritual book. If you're having some sort of matrimonial challenge, probably a good idea to read a book on, relationships. If you are in business and you're coming up with a challenge with sales or marketing or the organization, chances are reading a book or taking a course in that area is the most prudent use of your time. So you're learning something that's relative to solve the challenge that's in front of you right now, rather than something that you might need a year from now or 10 years from now. Then you'd have to go back and read it. So I think in today's dynamic world, that's the most important thing. Some of the books I think that's really helped me from a business perspective, I think Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. That's a great book that really made an impact in organizing the structure of my business. I mentioned earlier Power versus Force and the whole series by Dr. Hawkins, Autobiography of Yogi and by Yogananda in that spiritual sense. I recently read Tribe of Mentors. I think that was a phenomenal, influential book. And on the financial side, one of my recent friends that I've just cultivated, friendships I cultivated, is a guy by the name of Garrett Gunderson. He's got a book called Killing Sacred Cows. And I think it's really good for looking at finances and wealth accumulation and your life's purpose. So very, very different messaging than almost anything I've seen in the financial industry. I think that's those are really influential and impactful books that can make a difference in people's lives. And I could go on and on and on, but again, because I'm constantly reading and I have been my whole life, but I think it goes back to that just-in-time learning.
Exactly. It's funny when I ask that question of everybody on the show, but when I'm asked that, when I'm on somebody else's show or just in general, if I'm talking to somebody in person, I say, I don't know. Where are you at in life? What's important to you? What do you feel you need the most help? Because if you're in business and you're reading about that next marketing tool, but your marriage is falling apart, you're reading the wrong stuff and you're talking to the wrong people and you're listening to the wrong stuff. You need to kind of shift over to what's going on in your marriage and get some help over there, because that's going to help your business ultimately. So I absolutely love that you said that regardless of everything else. And I have heard of a couple of those books that you just mentioned, so I'll definitely have all those listed in the show notes. And if I haven't read them, I'll get them on my list as well. Thanks for sharing that. So what do you feel holds most people back from living a life of true abundance?
Well, I think preconditioned programming, whether that is from the education system that they were in, whether that was from the belief systems that they were, picked up from their social group, whether that was their family or their localized environment. I think oftentimes these patterns of behaviors and how we view and see the world are so embedded into our subconscious, they taint our perception of things. And they do it on a level that you're not necessarily conscious of. So, for example, if you have a belief that, wealthy people are crooked or deceitful, well, how did you come to that, right? Like, why do you have that? Or if you think that, well, money doesn't grow on trees. Well, I see apples and oranges and fruit trees, and you can convert that to money. So money essentially does grow on trees. So if you start challenging these memes, these kind of belief systems that we've been indoctrinated with from whether it's the news, whether it's our environment, whether it's our education system or family, you start to realize that they break down. They're not universal truths. They may be true sometimes, but they're certainly not true all the time. And I think those things, and that's where reflection and contemplation, and then also the study of people who have embraced abundance on a level, is critical, and surrounding yourself with those environments. Because if I got indoctrinated with a set of belief systems because of an environmental situation, guess what? I change my environment and indoctrinate myself with a different set of beliefs. Guess what's going to happen? I'm going to experience a different result. And that's how malleable and flexible the mind actually is, and how it impacts how we see the world and what we do as an activity level. So I think those things on the shorthand philosophically. The second thing, I would say that the distraction of social media has become a massive issue in society. We have some of the smartest and most influential or resource-based companies in the world who are cultivating, they're leveraging all the psychiatrists and psychologists and mathematical algorithms to addict us essentially to our phones and our computers. And not saying that these things aren't wonderful and can be great devices for creating abundance. They can also strip us most important commodity, and that's time. So I think we live in a world of a lot of competing distractions, and one needs to cultivate awareness on how to limit the negative influence and enhance the positive influence of those devices in our lives, that we can, realize our full potential.
Yeah, very, very true. Tools are amazing things, but they can be abused as well. So what does living a life of abundance mean to you, Wade?
Well, for me, it is first starts with gratitude. And I love that you started this podcast, with an aspect of gratitude, because taking a moment of just appreciating having a life, having another day above ground, and experiencing this big, beautiful blue orb that we're floating around in, it's kind of mind blowing when you just, I think that's the first thing, because you'll start to realize just how much we do have. Even the poorest people there is right now have a lot going on because they have life itself, and they have another day, and they have another chance. Second thing is about cultivating the process of self-actualization. Whatever talents, abilities, skills, you've got something to offer the world and the people in your environment. So cultivating and expressing that to the best of your ability, I think, is a great practice. And when you do that, when you give of yourself, you actually experience more back and you start to actually cultivate the feeling of abundance. And then finally, cultivating ways that positively enhance as many people as possible through your business, through your life, through your practice, will give you experiences. It'll give you resources. It'll give you opportunities that wouldn't normally come to you. So by being free and kindly giving of your time, effort, energy, and your gifts to the world, it just opens up doors that if you just don't share yourself on that level, that you'd never experience. And that's when you start to speak the abundance of your own life and your own abilities, and also other people who are willing to reciprocate with their skills, their abilities, and their gifts. And that's when humanity kind of transforms into a completely different experience of possibility. And we stop operating from a position of division and condemnation or segregation, and we start to realize that, hey, we can be the united hearts of humanity, and that everybody's just doing the best they can here on the planet with what they've been given.
Oh man, just simply amazing, absolutely amazing. Much of what you said, that I am living proof of that gratitude, and so much more coming into my life. Part of the reason why I started this whole conversation to share this with others and share these messages and give pay it forward to everybody. So we're going to close this up, Wade. Before we do, what did we not talk about that you want to ensure that our abundant leaders get out of our conversation, including any other ways to get in touch with you, the amazing gift that you talked about earlier? How can we get access to all that?
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, I think first and foremost, for those of you who are listening, I think whatever you decide you want to do in life, the next step, as soon as you make a decision, take action on it right away. So if something touched you here today, take action on it right away. Or something touches you in your life, take action on it right away, and never leave. I think it's Tony Robbins said, never leave the point of a decision without taking action. And because action leads to momentum, and momentum leads to, an ongoing thing. And life is all about momentum. So that's that. Far as to reach me, for those who want the Awesome Health course, it's a free course. It's a 12-week. You can reach me at byoptimizer.com, and we're going to put /MOA to give you the offer, because the course normally costs money, but you'll get it for free that way. And then for those who want to reach me through some of my business components, you can go to thewealthybackpacker.com. Reach out to us on social media, or through go to our site, check out the emails, that sort of stuff, and we'll share with you some of the principles of online entrepreneurship. Or you can reach out to me at wadelightheart.com and email me through that, and be happy to respond to the best of my ability.
Outstanding. We'll have all of that linked up in the show notes at Men of Abundance. Guys, just go there, check it out, take a look at this stuff. And the most powerful thing that Wade just said right there is my keyword, action. Motivation is nothing until you take action. Once you take action, that's when you get motivated, because you realize, hell, I can do this. This isn't as hard as I thought it was, or this isn't what I thought it was. Whatever the case may be, the decision is one thing, taking action, and then momentum. Amazing, amazing words right there. Live by that, and go check out what Wade's got going on. You resonate with him? Check him out, man. Get a hold of him, and make sure you're utilizing his knowledge, because he's there for you. Wade, it's been a pleasure, brother. I really enjoyed this conversation. Great way to get my morning started on this Saturday morning, and I look forward to digging into more what you got going on.
Hey, thanks very much. It's been my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Now go out and live your life of abundance, and man, just keep paying it forward. Aloha. All right, if you've been listening to this show for a while, you know by now that health, wealth, and peace of mind are extremely important to me. All of those have to be in line, and of all of those, if I was to choose one, quite frankly, it would be peace of mind. That's just who I am and what I strive for. And in order for me to have that, I have to maintain my health and maintain my finances and my wealth in general. All of that comes together and creates the peace of mind that I need. But when any of the other two get out of line, my relationships, my health, my wealth, or anything of that nature, I go back into my peaceful zone. I go back into that zone, and that's where I find the fix the issues, maybe fix the problems, come up with new ideas so that I can improve upon the other things in my life. Going back to that peace of mind, that is truly what drives me, and I don't know what it is for you. I would love to hear what it is. Men, go to menofabundance.com/members. Get in the community. Get in the Men of Abundance community on Facebook, and let's have these conversations. Now, go out and live your life of abundance, and make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.